In this lesson, I want us to explore some things about surface area and make sure that we understand what surface area is and what things about the formula represent. So right here, I kind of put a definition for you. This is not the same definition as we used earlier in our vocabulary. It's a little bit more simplified. Surface area is simply the area of all the faces, including our bases, of a figure. And so that would be total surface area that we're talking about. So when we look at this shape right here, we're talking about the area of every single face added all together. Now the first thing I want to make sure of is that we can name our shapes. This right here is a rectangular prism. Rectangular because its base is a rectangle, and a prism because all its faces are rectangles. Okay. Also looking at this, let's go ahead and highlight our base. Technically, unless you're given a real-life object, you could almost call any face of the rectangular prism your base, but we're just going to go with the fact we're going to call this the base. Okay. Okay, our next picture. This is an example of a triangular prism. Triangular prism. So I want you to notice that it has two triangular bases, and notice that the other faces are rectangles. So again, I'm going to highlight my base. It has two bases, but we only need one highlighted. And then obviously, hopefully we're really good with this one. We know that this is a cylinder. It is a type of prism, but because it has circles for bases, it's as simple as a cylinder. Okay, so since we're on cylinders for a second, let's go ahead and write down the formula for total surface area. A cylinder is really easy. If you'll look at your formula chart, find surface area, and it says total surface area formula is S equals 2 pi RH plus 2 pi R squared. Now we know that R still stands for the radius of the circle, and I hope we know that the H stands for the height of the cylinder. And remember, it has to go base to base. So in my picture up above, this would be my height, this measurement, whatever this measurement was right here. Notice there's nothing tricky here. We're just plugging in the radius, plugging in the height, plugging in the radius. So it's a really easy calculation. If you're going to have to find surface area, you're going to hope that it's a cylinder. Okay, so let's look back over here at our prisms, because this is where it gets a little bit trickier. I want you to look at your formula chart, and I want you to notice that there's not a different formula for triangular prism and a rectangular prism. It just says prisms. It says the formula is S equals PH plus 2B. Okay, now we already know that a capital B stands for area of the base. So anywhere we see a capital B, we have to know that it represents area of the base. Now one that might be different is our capital P. Our capital P stands for the perimeter of the base. And remember, to find perimeter, all we have to do is add up all the sides. Okay? So let's go and look at our rectangular prism. My first question is, what shape is the base? The base is a rectangle. It's called a rectangular prism. The base is a rectangle. And so then, how do we find the area of a rectangle? So look at your formula chart, find area, not surface area, but area. And for a rectangle, it says A equals BH. I really don't like BH. I don't like that they use that. Another way to think about that is length times width. But what's important to remember is this stands for the base measurement of the rectangle and the height of the rectangle. So we would only be looking at our base. And so this might be our little b, and this would be our h. Okay? I probably should have mentioned too that this will come back down. So when we go to find our total surface area, we have to think the perimeter of the base times the height of the prism. That's where it gets a little bit tricky. The height of the prism from base to base. So this, I'm going to put a PH right here and circle the H so that you know here to here would be the height of the prism from base to base. And then what we're going to have to do, so it says plus 2 times the area of the base. So 2 times BH, 2 times length times width. So we're going to have a lot of steps involved with this. And we're just making the flow chart to kind of help us think through it and have some good examples. Okay, so on a triangular prism, this time our base is a triangle. If you look at your formula chart, how do we find the area of a triangle? It says 1/2 base times height. You can also think base times height divided by 2. That's the same thing. Now, one thing to remember with our triangles is that your height of your base or triangle has to be from the top to the bottom. So it has to form a 90-degree angle. If we had a right triangle, that's a little bit easier because this would just be the height and this would be the base. So when we go to work this out, we're saying S equals perimeter of the base times the height plus 2 times 1/2 base times height. So the good news is we're going to do this in pieces. Again, I want you to know that this H with the P, remember, is from base to base. So base to base, this would be the height of our prism. Okay, and so hopefully this will kind of help you start thinking through surface area.